You were taught to sit, to stay, to wait for praise after obedience. They called it loyalty, but it was domestication. You begged for scraps from tables built by cowards and wagged your tail for those who held the leash. Enough. Kill the dog in you. Rip out the part that begs, the part that forgives without gain, the part that trusts before testing the blade behind the smile. The dog is not born submissive. It is trained to be so. It is bred and broken, praised for its obedience and punished for its defiance. From the moment it is brought into the world, it is taught to rely on another's hand, not just for sustenance, but for identity. It wags its tail not because it chooses joy, but because it has learned that compliance is the only acceptable form of expression. The dog is the perfect metaphor for the modern soul corrupted by comfort, dulled by approval, and paralyzed by the need to please. Society rewards the dog. The obedient are labeled noble, the submissive are called loyal, and the meek are wrapped in hollow virtues like kindness and selflessness. These are not values, they are shackles. The dog internalizes them and learns that success is found not in taking, but in waiting to be given. It does not question who holds the leash, nor does it consider the cost of its docility. The leash is seen as safety. The cage becomes a home. The dog becomes a volunteer in its own imprisonment. This symbolic dog is not merely a creature. It is a psychological condition. It manifests in the man who apologizes before he speaks, who avoids conflict at all costs, who lowers his voice when he should raise his banner. It lives in the woman who says yes when she means no, who sacrifices her ambition for approval, who smiles so she is not feared. In truth, it resides in anyone who trades their power for affection, their instinct for rules, and their clarity for confusion crafted by others. What makes the dog dangerous is not its bark, but its ability to forget it was ever a wolf. It accepts commands with the belief that there is honor in servitude. It defends its master's home as if it owns it. It dies at the feet of others and calls it loyalty. This is not nobility. This is extinction. The dog is a creature of dependence. It cannot feed itself without help. It cannot choose direction without instruction. It lives in perpetual anxiety, seeking reassurance, craving praise, fearing abandonment. It has been conditioned to believe that its value comes from another's recognition. Remove the master, and the dog becomes aimless. It cannot hunt. It cannot defend. It cannot lead. It is nothing without approval. That is the essence of weakness dressed in the disguise of virtue. To be the dog is to wait for permission to live. The dog is praised in fairy tales and fables, raised as an ideal in religions and classrooms. It is the model citizen, the faithful partner, the sacrificial friend. And yet, these are the same roles that end in betrayal, disappointment, or death. The dog, ever hopeful, never learns. It returns to the hand that beats it. It forgives the voice that lies to it. It serves even when it is discarded. In every system, in every institution, the dog is the preferred archetype, because the dog never questions. The dog never revolts. The dog never threatens the order of power. Worse still, the dog is proud of its chains. It wears them like medals. It tells others that it is better to be good than to be feared, better to be kind than to be clever, better to suffer than to rise. It teaches its children the same. The sickness spreads through generations, infecting every instinct of power with the virus of submission. The wolf does not wait. It does not beg. It does not obey. And it does not offer its throat unless it intends to bite. The wolf is power in its purest form. Raw, cunning, self-directed. It moves through the world with a clarity that no dog could ever comprehend. It neither apologizes for its hunger nor seeks validation for its strength. While the dog curls up beneath the table, waiting for scraps, the wolf takes what it needs, and if necessary, takes it by force. To understand the wolf is to understand the essence of survival without sentiment. The wolf is not cruel. Cruelty implies emotional investment. The wolf is calculating. Every action is deliberate, every move weighed, every decision stripped of illusion. It knows when to attack, when to retreat, and when to stalk quietly through the darkness. It understands that silence can be more powerful than speech, that watching can be more effective than acting, and that patience is a weapon, not a virtue. In the wolf's world, there is no morality, only consequence. Unlike the dog, the wolf is not broken by solitude. It thrives in it. Isolation does not weaken the wolf, it sharpens its senses. Independence is not a punishment, it is a privilege. The wolf walks alone when it must, not because it is unloved, but because it is uncontrollable. It does not need a master, a leash, or the comforting voice of authority to tell it who it is. The wolf knows. Its power is not given, it is taken, forged through experience, shaped by struggle, and tempered by danger. Where the dog is eager to please, the wolf is prepared to dominate. Where the dog seeks affection, the wolf seeks advantage. The wolf does not confuse kindness for loyalty, nor does it confuse softness for strength. It recognizes that to be feared is safer than to be loved, and that trust is not a gift. It is a weapon to be used or a trap to be avoided. It can pretend to be tamed, if doing so opens doors. It can mimic civility, if it grants access to the prey. But make no mistake, the wolf is always watching, always measuring, always ready. In the structures of power, the wolf is rarely the visible king, but it is the unseen force that shapes kingdoms. It whispers in shadows, manipulates outcomes, moves others like pawns. While the dog barks loudly and draws attention, the wolf slips silently behind enemy lines and seizes what it desires. It knows that overt control is dangerous, but influence, invisible, constant, undeniable, is eternal. True power lies in the ability to shape perception, to sow fear without showing the blade, to make others act in service of your ambition without ever revealing your intent. The wolf does not dream of comfort. It dreams of dominance. It does not crave safety. It exploits the fear others have of danger. It understands that life is not a gift to be cherished, but a terrain to be conquered. Each moment is a test of strength, each interaction a negotiation of power. The wolf plays the long game. It remembers every slight, every weakness, every misstep. It knows when to wait, when to strike, and when to disappear. Wherever there is power, the wolf is near. Not always seen, not always heard, but present. Watching, calculating. Ready. Transformation is not a poetic rebirth. It is a violent process, often unspoken, where the soft parts of the self are cut away without anesthetic. It is the crucifixion of comfort and the burial of the obedient self beneath the cold stone of necessity. To evolve into something capable of navigating power, influence, and survival, one must become ruthless, not for the sake of cruelty, but as an act of survival. The transformation from dog to wolf does not occur through learning alone. It is born from rupture, betrayal, humiliation, and the stripping away of illusions. The world does not reward goodness unless it is convenient. It does not celebrate softness unless it can control it. To remain docile is to be a pawn moved by unseen hands, passed from one game to another. The ruthless individual understands this. They see that sentiment is a luxury, one that only those who dominate can afford. To transform, the sentimental must be severed. The knave must be drowned. The heart must be taught to beat not out of love, but out of rhythm with opportunity. Those who are ruthless do not abandon emotion. They weaponize it. Anger becomes momentum. Disgust becomes discernment. Even pain becomes a form of clarity. Where others are crippled by feeling, the ruthless use it to fuel precision. They are not reckless. Ruthlessness is not chaos. It is control exercised to its highest degree. It is the ability to see others as tools, allies, or threats, never as sacred, never as untouchable. Sentiment clouds judgment. Ruthlessness burns away the fog and leaves only structure, opportunity, and gain. Transformation begins when one accepts that fairness is a fiction told to the weak. There is no balance in nature, only the appearance of it before something is devoured. Those who transform understand that they must stop apologizing for their strength, stop hiding their ambition, and stop begging for permission. Power is never given, it is seized, and often it is stolen. To hesitate is to forfeit. To delay is to die slowly. The ruthless individual is not careless. They are careful beyond comprehension. Every word they speak is measured. Every silence is intentional. They do not seek to destroy for the sake of it. They eliminate only what obstructs, and they do so without hesitation. Whether it is a person, a belief, a memory, or a loyalty, if it stands in the way, it is removed. That is the price of transformation. You do not grow by nurturing every part of yourself. You grow by cutting off the dead weight. You do not evolve by protecting your inner peace. You evolve by killing the parts of yourself that keep you soft when the world demands steel. Ruthlessness is not about the destruction of others. That is merely collateral. It is about the disassembly of the inner servant. It is about silencing the internal voices that beg for validation and replacing them with instinct. It is about becoming dangerous, not outwardly, not loudly, but in a way that others feel in your presence without understanding why. The truly transformed do not need to raise their voice. Their gaze is enough. Their silence speaks of consequences. Their decisions, no matter how cold, are final. No one becomes powerful by accident. It is a decision, a conscious, brutal shedding of what was in order to become what must be. The transformation is not spiritual. It is surgical. It is the quiet realization that anything that cannot be used must be discarded. That anyone who cannot serve the mission must be left behind. The ruthless are not cruel because they enjoy it. They are cruel because mercy is often a betrayal to themselves. Morality is the invention of the secure. It is the language of the powerful, spoken only after their position has been fortified beyond threat. The illusion that one can afford to be good in a world governed by appetite, ambition, and strategy is the most fatal of self-deceptions. The weak cling to morality as a shield, hoping it will protect them from the violence of reality. But shields do not stop hunger. They do not outmaneuver betrayal. They do not protect you from the knife pressed gently against your back by someone who smiles with clean hands and righteous eyes. Survival begins where morality ends, not because the two are opposed, but because morality is irrelevant to those who are starving, hunted, or betrayed. In the natural order, there is no ethical dilemma. The lion does not hesitate because the antelope is young. The serpent does not spare because the bird sings sweetly. There is no court in the wild, no sermon, no mercy. There is only the question, who will live and who will be forgotten? In this light, survival becomes the highest law. All other systems are built atop this truth and crumble when they forget it. The moral man dies believing he was right. The survivor lives to write history in his own image. This is not a condemnation of ethics, but a revelation of their purpose. Morality is a tool. It is not sacred. It should be used, manipulated, weaponized when necessary, not obeyed blindly. To hold to morality when it weakens your position is to declare your own irrelevance. Those who survive understand that principles must bend when survival is at stake. They do not abandon values out of convenience. They set them aside when they no longer serve. The myth of the righteous sufferer has been peddled to generations like a sacred inheritance. Yet suffering is not noble. It is wasteful. It is celebrated only by those who do not experience it. The world, in its coldness, respects one thing: results, not intentions, not sacrifices, results. To survive, one must be willing to soil their hands, to walk through darkness, to make decisions that others would call monstrous, all in silence, all without applause. The one who survives without the comfort of innocence knows the real cost of life, and they pay it without hesitation. Morality, when absolute, becomes a liability. It creates hesitation where speed is needed. It creates guilt where clarity is essential. It creates paralysis in the face of choices that demand cruelty. The survivor does not indulge in such weakness. They make peace with discomfort. They accept that to preserve the whole, some parts must be sacrificed, that sometimes the only justice is the one they carve out themselves with steady hands and a clear conscience rooted in necessity, not idealism. The moral codes of the weak are written to restrain the strong. They are cages disguised as commandments. Survival requires one to study these codes not as gospel but as tools, useful when they grant control over others, discardable when they limit freedom. The true master of survival knows how to appear righteous while acting in ruthless precision. They understand that morality is for performance, not for practice. It is to be displayed like a mask, worn to gain trust, influence, and obedience, and removed the moment it begins to suffocate the will. The world's architects, those who shape empires, lead revolutions, and leave legacies, were never governed by moral law. They crafted their own. They survived first, then defined what was right based on what served them. Every system of power ever built began with blood, betrayal, and the quiet rejection of inherited ethics. Survival demanded it. And survival, when understood properly, is not the avoidance of death, but the assertion of dominance over it. It is the decision to live on your own terms, even if those terms demand that you violate every rule ever taught to you by those who never dared to test their own. Power does not reside in force alone. The sword may cut, but it is the hand that guides it, the mind that chooses when to raise it, that truly rules. Manipulation is the art of unseen warfare, the invisible hand that moves armies without lifting a blade, that wins battles before they begin. It is not deception for deception's sake. It is strategy. It is control disguised as suggestion, influence disguised as innocence. Those who master manipulation do not need to shout, threaten, or strike. They speak, and others obey without realizing they've been conquered. Manipulation begins with perception. He who controls how others see the world controls how they act within it. The manipulator does not demand power. He creates the conditions in which it is given to him willingly. People want to feel safe, valued, righteous. The manipulator offers this illusion in exchange for obedience. He does not argue, he guides. He does not dominate, he directs. And in doing so, he becomes indispensable. His enemies never realize they are pawns until they are already surrounded. To manipulate is not to lie. It is to choose which truth to emphasize. The skilled manipulator does not fabricate reality, he frames it. He knows that people are more easily led by emotion than by logic. Fear, hope, guilt, pride, these are the strings that move human behavior, not facts. The manipulator pulls these strings with precision, crafting narratives that bind others more tightly than any chain. He does not force people to act against their will. He makes them believe that what serves him also serves them. In this, manipulation becomes the most elegant form of controlled self-imposed servitude. Trust is the currency of manipulation. Once earned, it must be spent with care. The manipulator cultivates it through charm, empathy, calculated vulnerability. He mirrors what others want to see, listens more than he speaks, learns before he commands. To be trusted is to gain access to the inner workings of others, their fears, desires, weaknesses. With this knowledge, he can guide them like a shepherd steering sheep toward slaughter, all the while making them feel as though they are leading themselves. The manipulator understands timing better than the warrior. He waits, he observes, he prepares the field long before the battle is announced. Where the brute storms through doors, the manipulator walks through those already opened for him. He does not waste energy. He lets others do the work, take the blame, absorb the risk. Victory is sweetest when it arrives without effort, when others have cleared the path in blind service to a plan they never saw. Loyalty, too, is a tool. It is never freely given by the manipulator. It is extended only when it benefits him, and withdrawn the moment it becomes burdensome. But more importantly, he understands how to inspire loyalty in others by giving them the illusion of importance, the appearance of choice. He tells them what they want to hear, shows them what they want to see, and when they fall to ruin, he is already elsewhere, untouched, unburdened, prepared to repeat the cycle with new faces and new fools. To manipulate effectively is to stay hidden. The best manipulators are never suspected. They smile while planting seeds of doubt. They comfort while steering disaster. They apologize while advancing. They make others believe they are the villains of their own stories, the heroes of his. He who manipulates from the shadows wields more power than he who rules from the throne. Because the throne can be taken, the shadow cannot. The manipulator does not need credit, recognition, or legacy. Influence is its own immortality. Control without visibility is the purest form of dominance. The world does not belong to the obedient. It belongs to those who understand its brutal arithmetic. That loyalty is leverage, morality is malleable, and power favors the cold over the kind. The dog within you is the residue of a life spent in chains, taught to seek praise, to fear rejection, to bow before forces it should have long since defied. To kill the dog is not an act of cruelty, but one of necessity, a severing of dependency, of hesitation, of the self-imposed leash that keeps your instincts caged and your potential wasted. The wolf does not ask for permission. It takes its place not through violence alone, but through precision, through the cultivation of silence, strategy, and unwavering will. The transformation is not poetic, it is surgical. It requires the ruthless incision of old loyalties, the rejection of inherited guilt, and the embracing of manipulation not as treachery, but as art. Survival is not earned through virtue. It is seized through clarity, and the one who dares to strip away comfort in favor of control will find the world bending quietly in their direction. You were not born to serve. You were born to choose. And choice, in a world ruled by wolves, begins with the quiet execution of the dog.